The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was always quiet. Representatives from 37 different species sat in their seats. They came from different worlds. They had different bodies. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some were made of light. But they all followed the same rules. They all kept the same peace. Today, that peace was about to break. Commander Vrix stood in the center of the hall. He was an Alari, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 small eyes. His hands were shaking. He had come to confess something terrible. 3 weeks ago, he said, his voice weak, my team visited the restricted planet called Earth. The hall was silent. Everyone knew about Earth. It was a small blue planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy. The creatures there called themselves humans. They were young. They had not yet discovered how to travel between stars. The Galactic Council had one simple rule about Earth. Do not touch it. Do not contact it. Leave it alone. We took something, Vrix continued. We took a human. A small one. A child. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Councillor Tith rose from his seat. He was very old. His body was like a giant insect, with long legs and large black eyes. He had lived for over 1,000 years. He had seen many terrible things. But he had never heard anything like this. You did what? His voice was barely a whisper. We needed to study them, Rick said quickly. The humans are interesting. They grow so fast. They learn so quickly. We wanted to understand why. One small child would not be missed. We were careful. We took her while she was sleeping. Her family will think she simply disappeared. Her? Asked Ambassador Fen. She was a luminari, a being made of soft glowing light. Right now, that light was turning red with fear. You took a female child? Yes. She is 7 years old in Earth time. Her name is Yuna. The hall exploded with noise. Every representative was shouting. Some were angry. Some were terrified. The Vraxi delegate, a creature covered in green scales, was already calling for his ship to leave the station. The Kelthari were clicking their legs together in panic. Councillor Tith raised his hand for silence. It took a long time, but finally the hall was quiet again. Do you understand what you have done? Tith asked. His voice was cold now. Do you know why we stay away from Earth? They are primitive, Rick said. They cannot even leave their own planet. What threat could they possibly be? Elder Mira spoke then. She was very old, even older than Tith. Her species, the Synthesis, had been traveling the stars when most other races were still swimming in their oceans. She rarely spoke at council meetings. When she did, everyone listened. Primitive? She laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. We thought the Vorkith were primitive once. We ignored them. We took their resources. We treated them like animals. She paused. There are no Vorkith anymore. They destroyed themselves trying to destroy us. 300 worlds burned before it was over. Humans are not like the Vorkith, Rix protested. No, Myra agreed. They are worse. The Vorkith took 10,000 years to reach the stars. Humans went from riding animals to splitting atoms in less than 200 years. They went from their first flying machine to walking on their moon in 60 years. They learn faster than any species we have ever seen. And they protect their young with a fury that defies reason. The hall was silent again. Everyone was thinking about what this meant. Far away, on a Nellari research ship called the Quiet Dawn, little Yuna sat in a small white room. The walls were smooth and cold. The light came from everywhere and nowhere. There was no window. There was no door that she could see. She had cried for the first 2 days. She had screamed for her mother. She had begged the strange gray creatures to take her home. They had not listened. They had simply watched her with their 4 small eyes, and made notes on their devices. Now, on the third day, Yuna had stopped crying. She sat in the corner of the room, holding her stuffed rabbit. It was the only thing she had from home. She had been holding it when the bright light came through her window. She'd have been holding it when she woke up in this strange place. The Nilari scientists watched her through a hidden screen. They had expected the human child to keep crying. Human children were supposed to be weak and emotional. That was what their research said. But Yuna was not crying anymore. She was sitting very still. Her dark eyes moved around the room, looking at everything. She was watching the walls. She was watching the ceiling. She was watching the places where the scientists thought they were hidden. "Why has she stopped?" asked one scientist. "Perhaps she has accepted her situation," said another. "No," said the lead scientist, a Nilari named Kel. He had studied many species. He had seen fear. He had seen despair. He had seen acceptance. What he saw in the human child's eyes was none of these things. "She is waiting." Waiting for what? Kel did not answer. But deep in his chest, something cold began to grow. It was a feeling he had not experienced in many years. It was fear. On Earth, in a small house in a quiet city, a woman named Yumbi woke up screaming. She ran to her daughter's room. The bed was empty. The window was open. Her child was gone. She did not know it yet, but her screams would soon be heard across the stars, and the galaxy would tremble. 3 weeks had passed since Yuna disappeared. On Earth, the police had searched everywhere. They had looked in the forests. They had looked in the rivers. They had knocked on every door in the city. They found nothing. Yuna's picture was on every news channel. Her mother, Yumbi, had not slept in days. She sat by the window every night, waiting for her daughter to come home. She did not know that her daughter was millions of kilometers away, floating through the cold darkness of space. But someone else did know. High Admiral Suho stood in a room that did not officially exist. It was located inside a space station that orbited Earth, hidden behind the moon where no telescope could see it. The station was called the Shield. Only a few hundred people on Earth knew about it. To the rest of the world, humanity was alone in the universe. That was a lie. 60 years ago, a ship had crashed in the mountains of Asia. The governments of Earth had found it. They had studied it. They had learned its secrets. And they had made a choice. They would not tell their people about alien life. Not yet. Instead, they would prepare. For 60 years, the brightest minds on Earth had worked in secret. They had learned how to build ships that could travel faster than light. They had built weapons that could crack planets in half. They had created a fleet of over 3,000 warships, all hidden in the asteroid fields around Earth. The aliens had been watching humanity for centuries. They thought they were hidden. They thought humans were primitive and blind. They were wrong. "Show me," Suho said. Lieutenant Jia pressed a button. A large screen lit up, showing a map of the solar system. Red dots appeared everywhere. Each dot was an alien satellite or probe. There were hundreds of them, scattered across the system like a net around Earth. "They have been watching us since before we discovered electricity," Jia said. "We found their first probe 30 years ago. Since then, we have tracked every device they have sent. And they never knew we could see them? No, sir. They believe we are blind to their technology. They think we are children playing in the dirt while they watch from above." Suho nodded. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. He had commanded the Shield for 15 years. He had always known this day would come. He had hoped it would come through peaceful contact, through a friendly meeting between species. He had hoped humans would join the galactic community as equals. Instead, they had taken a child. 3 weeks ago, one of their ships entered Earth's atmosphere. Jia continued. It landed in Korea, in a residential area. They were on the ground for less than 3 minutes. When they left, a 7-year-old girl named Yuna was gone. Do we know where they took her? Yes, sir. We tracked their ship to a research vessel called the Quiet Dawn. It belongs to a species called the Nalari. The vessel is currently in orbit around a station near the Galactic Council headquarters. Suho was quiet for a long moment. Behind him, a window showed the Earth below. Blue oceans, white clouds, green forests. His home, his people, a people who had lost a child. Contact the president, he said finally, and the other world leaders. Tell them what has happened. Tell them it is time. 2 hours later, a message was sent from the shield. It traveled through space faster than light, using technology the aliens did not know humans had. It reached every corner of the known galaxy. It was translated into 37 different languages. Every species with ears to hear or eyes to read received the same words. We are humanity. We are the people of Earth. You have watched us for centuries. You have studied us like animals. You have decided we were not worthy of knowing about you. We knew. We always knew. 3 weeks ago, you took one of our children. Her name is Yuna. She is 7 years old. She is afraid. She is alone. She wants to come home. You have 1 cycle to return her. If she is not returned safely, we will come and take her back. And we will make sure you never take another human child again. This is your only warning. The message ended. Across the galaxy, billions of creatures heard it. For a moment, the universe was silent. Then the panic began. On the Galactic Council station, alarms were ringing. Ships were launching. Communications were flying in every direction. Councillor Tith called for an emergency meeting, but half the representatives had already fled. Commander Vrix stood frozen in his quarters, staring at a screen. The message played again and again. He could not believe it. The humans knew. They had always known. And now they were coming. What have I done? He whispered. On the research vessel Quiet Dawn, the scientists had seen the message too. They looked at each other with wide, frightened eyes. Then they looked at the screen showing the small white room where Yuna sat. The human child was smiling. It was a small smile, barely visible. But it was there. She was still holding her stuffed rabbit. She was still sitting in the corner. But something in her eyes had changed. She had heard the message too. The scientists did not know how. They had not played it for her. But somehow, she knew. Someone was coming. And Yuna was no longer afraid. The Galactic Council was falling apart. In the Great Hall, only half the seats were filled. Many representatives had fled to their home worlds. Others were hiding in their ships, ready to run at the first sign of danger. The ones who remained were arguing, shouting, blaming each other for the disaster that was coming. Councillor Tiff stood at the center of it all. His old body was tired, but he could not rest. He had to find a way to stop this. He had to save his people. We must return the child immediately, he said. That is our only hope. And then what? Demanded the Vraxi delegate. His green scales were pale with fear. They said they would make sure we never take another human child. What does that mean? Will they destroy us? We do not know what they are capable of, Tiff admitted. I know, said Elder Myra. Her ancient voice was heavy with sorrow. I have seen their history. I have watched them from the shadows for 200 years. They are capable of anything. Before anyone could respond, a new alarm began to ring. It was the emergency signal. Something was approaching. Scoutmaster Kell of the Vraxi Dominion ran to the observation window. His scales turned white. By the ancient stars, he whispered. Look, everyone looked. Outside the station, space was tearing open. It was like watching fabric rip apart. Bright lines of energy appeared from nowhere, growing wider and wider. Through the holes, ships began to emerge. Human ships. They came in waves. First 10, then 100, then 1,000. They were not like any vessels the galaxy had seen before. They were sharp and angular, built for war. They moved through the torn space like predators swimming through water. "That is impossible," said Ambassador Fenn. Her light was flickering with shock. "They are using slipspace travel. That method was abandoned centuries ago. It is too dangerous, too unstable." "They have not abandoned it," Kel said. "They have mastered it." The human fleet spread out around the station. More ships continued to arrive. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. They formed a ring around the Galactic Council headquarters, their weapons pointed at everything. But they did not fire. They simply waited. Then, the communication screens came alive. A human face appeared. It was Admiral Suho. His expression was calm, but his eyes burned with cold anger. Behind him stood a woman. Her face was red from crying. Her hands were clenched into fists. "This is High Admiral Suho of the United Terran Defense Force," he said. "Behind me is Yumbi, the mother of the child you stole." The council chamber was silent. No one dared to speak. "For 60 years, we watched you watch us," Suho continued. "We learned your languages. We studied your cultures. We waited for you to welcome us as equals. Instead, you treated us like animals in a zoo." He paused. His jaw tightened. "We could have accepted that. We are patient people. We were willing to wait until you were ready to see us as more than specimens. But then you took Yuna." Yumbi stepped forward. Her voice was shaking, but she spoke clearly. "My daughter is 7 years old. She likes to draw pictures. She wants to be a teacher when she grows up. She sleeps with a stuffed rabbit that her grandmother gave her. She's afraid of thunder. She cries when she sees animals get hurt." Tears ran down her face, but she did not stop. "She's not a specimen. She's not an experiment. She is my child. And you took her from her bed while she was sleeping." The council members looked at each other. Some of them had children of their own. For the first time, they understood what they had done. They had not taken a research subject. They had taken someone's daughter. Admiral Suho spoke again. "I am not here to negotiate. I am here to explain what happens next. You will return Yuna to us. You will return her unharmed. You will do this within the next 6 hours. And if we refuse?" Someone asked. The voice came from Commander Vrix. He was standing in the back of the hall, his 4 eyes filled with terror. "If you refuse," Suho said slowly, "we will come and take her. We will destroy any ship that tries to stop us. We will break through any defense you build. And when we have our daughter back, we will make sure the galaxy remembers what happens when you harm a human child." The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Counselor Tith turned to Commander Vrix. His voice was like ice. "You will take us to the research vessel, now." "The Quiet Dawn is 3 hours away," Vrix protested. "We cannot reach it in time." "Then you had better hope the humans are patient." But everyone knew the truth. Humans were many things. They were clever. They were strong. They were creative. But when someone took their children, they were not patient at all. On the Quiet Dawn, the scientists had gathered in the control room. They had seen the human fleet. They had heard the human admiral. They knew what was coming. "What do we do?" asked one of them. Lead Scientist Cal looked at the screen showing Yuna's room. The little girl was standing now. She was looking directly at the hidden camera, as if she knew exactly where it was. She was still smiling. "We pray," Cal said quietly. that they reach us before the humans do. The research vessel Quiet Dawn had never moved so fast. Commander Vrix stood on the bridge, shouting orders. Every engine was running at full power. Every system was pushed to its limit. The ship was flying toward the Galactic Council station as fast as it could. But it was not fast enough. Human ships detected, the navigator announced. 10 vessels. They are closing in. Vrix felt his blood turn cold. How did they find us so quickly? Unknown. They should not have been able to track us through slipspace. But they did. On the screen, 10 human warships appeared. They were smaller than the Quiet Dawn, but they moved with terrifying speed. They surrounded the research vessel in seconds, blocking every escape route. A communication signal came through. It was the same human admiral. "This is Admiral Suho. You have something that belongs to us. Prepare to be boarded." "Wait," Rick said desperately. "We are bringing her to you. We are returning her. Please, give us time." There was a pause. Then Suho spoke again. "You have 1 hour. If the child is not transferred to our ship by then, we will take her ourselves. And we will not be gentle." The screen went dark. Rix turned to his crew. "Get the human child ready, now." Down in the small white room, the door finally opened. Yuna looked up as Nalari scientists entered. They looked scared. Their gray hands were shaking. "Come with us," one of them said. "You are going home." Yuna did not move. She clutched her stuffed rabbit tighter. "Is my mom here?" "She is waiting for you. On one of the human ships. Please, come with us." Slowly, Yuna stood up. She had been in this room for 3 weeks. She had been alone. She had been afraid. But she had never stopped believing that someone would come for her. And now they had. She walked between the tall gray creatures, down long white hallways. Other Nalari watched her pass. They looked at her with strange expressions. Some looked scared. Some looked sad. Some looked ashamed. Yuna did not care about them. She only cared about one thing: getting back to her mother. The transfer took place in a small shuttle bay. A human vessel had connected to the Quiet Dawn. Its door opened, and several humans in military uniforms stepped out. They were armed with weapons the Nalari had never seen before. But they were not here to fight. They were here for Yuna. A woman pushed past the soldiers. She was not wearing a uniform. Her clothes were wrinkled. Her hair was messy. Her eyes were red from crying. But when she saw Yuna, her face changed. Joy and relief flooded through her. "Yuna!" Yumbi ran forward and fell to her knees. She wrapped her arms around her daughter and held her tight. My baby girl." Yuna buried her face in her mother's shoulder. She was crying now. All the tears she had held back for 3 weeks came pouring out. "Mom," she sobbed. "Mom, I knew you would come. I knew it. I am here, baby. I am here. You are safe now. You are safe." The soldiers watched with hard faces. Some of them had tears in their eyes, too. They were warriors. They had trained for battle. But seeing a mother hold her lost child touched something deep inside them. Commander Vrix watched from across the bay. He felt something he had not expected. It was not fear, though he was certainly afraid. It was guilt. Deep, terrible guilt. He had done this. He had caused this pain. He had torn a child away from her mother for nothing more than scientific curiosity. How could he have been so blind? One of the human soldiers approached him. It was a young woman with a calm face. Her name tag said, Lieutenant Gia. "The child appears healthy," she said. "You treated her well. That is the only reason this bay is not filled with your blood." Vrix could not speak. He only nodded. "Admiral Suho will address the Galactic Council soon. Jia continued. He will explain what happens next. I suggest you listen carefully. The humans left. They took Yuna and Yunbi with them. The Nalari shuttle bay felt suddenly empty. Hours later, Admiral Suho stood before the Galactic Council. Yuna was safe on a human ship. Yunbi was with her. The crisis was over. But the consequences were just beginning. For centuries, you watched us, Suho said. You decided we were not worthy of knowing about you. You treated us like animals in a cage. Today, that ends. He looked around the hall. Representatives from dozens of species stared back at him. Some with fear, some with respect, some with shame. We do not want war. We have never wanted war. But we will not be ignored. We will not be studied without our consent. And we will never, ever allow you to take our children again. Councillor Tith rose slowly. What do you want from us? Recognition, Suho said. We want to join your Galactic Council as equals. We want trade. We want cultural exchange. We want to learn from you, and we want to teach you in return. He paused. But most importantly, we want a new law. A law that protects children of all species. No more kidnappings. No more experiments. No child from any world will ever be taken from their family again. The council was silent. Then, slowly, Elder Mira began to make a sound. It was the synthesis way of showing approval. One by one, other representatives joined in. Different sounds from different species, but all meaning the same thing. Yes, for the first time in centuries, the galaxy agreed on something new. And it was because a 7-year-old girl had refused to give up hope. 1 year had passed since the day Yuna came home. The galaxy had changed. It had changed more in 12 months than it had in 12 centuries. Old rules were broken. Old fears were faced. Old enemies became new friends. And at the center of it all was humanity. Ambassador Doan stood in the great hall of the Galactic Council. He was a quiet man with gentle eyes and gray hair. He did not look like a warrior or a conqueror. He looked like a teacher or a grandfather. But every creature in that hall knew better than to underestimate him. Behind Ambassador Doan, in the visitor gallery, sat Yunbi and Yuna. The little girl was 8 years old now. She wore a pretty blue dress and held her stuffed rabbit in her lap. She was watching everything with wide, curious eyes. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Doan said. His voice was calm and warm. 1 year ago, our people met under terrible circumstances. A child was taken. A mother wept. 2 civilizations came close to war. He paused and looked around the hall. Today, I am here to talk about the future. Councillor Tith nodded slowly. He had aged in the past year. The weight of what had happened sat heavy on his old shoulders. But he had also learned. They had all learned. The humans have proven themselves, Tith said. They had the power to destroy us. Instead, they chose peace. That is rare in this galaxy. Peace is always a choice, Doan agreed. And it is the choice we continue to make. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want to conquer your worlds. We only want what every species wants. Safety for our families. Hope for our children. A place among the stars. Ambassador Fen of the Luminari spoke next. Her light was soft and blue, the color of calm. Many of us were afraid of humans. We had heard stories about your wars, your weapons, your anger. We thought you would bring destruction. We have done terrible things to each other, Doan admitted. Our history is full of pain and violence, but it is also full of love and courage. We have learned from our mistakes. We are still learning. He smiled softly. That is what makes us human. We fall down. We get back up. We try again. Elder Mira, the ancient one who had warned the council about humans, laughed quietly. I have watched your species for 200 years. I have seen you do impossible things. You split the atom before you could cure simple diseases. You walked on your moon before you could feed all your hungry. You built weapons that could end worlds while still fighting over small pieces of land. She shook her ancient head. You are the strangest creatures I have ever seen, and perhaps the most wonderful. Doham bowed his head respectfully. We are what we are. We hope the galaxy can accept us. The vote was taken. One by one, the representatives of 37 species raised their hands, or tentacles, or glowing appendages. One by one, they said yes. Humanity became the 38th member of the Galactic Council. The hall filled with sounds of celebration. Different species made different noises, but they all meant the same thing: joy, relief, hope. In the gallery, Yumbi wiped tears from her eyes. She held Yuna close. Do you understand what is happening? She asked her daughter. Yuna nodded. We are not alone anymore. We have friends now. Yes, baby. We have friends. After the ceremony, Counselor Tith approached Yuna. He knelt down slowly, his old insect legs creaking. He looked at her with his large black eyes. I'm sorry, he said, for what was done to you. It should never have happened. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she held out her stuffed rabbit. This is Toki, she said. He kept me safe when I was scared. Do you want to hold him? Teth's eyes went wide. He did not understand this gesture. He had expected anger or fear. Instead, the human child was offering him kindness. Carefully, with trembling hands, he took the stuffed rabbit. He held it gently, as if it were the most precious thing in the universe. Thank you, he whispered. Yuna smiled. You are welcome. Later that night, there was a celebration on the human flagship. Music played. Food was shared. Humans and aliens talked and laughed together. It was strange and awkward and wonderful. Admiral Suho stood by a window, watching Earth glow blue in the distance. Ambassador Doan joined him. We did it, Doan said. Peaceful contact. Just like we always hoped. Not exactly how we planned it, Suho replied. No, but perhaps better. They will remember this. They will remember that we showed mercy when we could have shown force. That means something. Suho nodded slowly. What happens now? Now we build. We trade. We learn. We grow. Dawn smiled. We show the galaxy what humanity can do when we work together. Across the room, Yuna was playing with alien children. A young luminari was showing her how to make light dance between her fingers. A small Vraxi was teaching her words in his language. They were laughing together. Yumbi watched them with tears in her eyes. 1 year ago, she had lost her daughter to the darkness between stars. Now her daughter was making friends with creatures from other worlds. The universe was vast and strange, and sometimes cruel. But it was also full of wonder, full of possibility, full of hope. And at the center of it all was a little girl who had refused to give up. A little girl who had waited in the darkness, believing that someone would come. A little girl who had taught the galaxy that some bonds could never be broken. The bond between a mother and her child. The bond between humanity and its home. The bond between those who choose hope over fear. The stars stretched out in every direction, endless and beautiful. And for the first time in history, humanity looked up at them not as strangers, but as citizens. The new order had begun, and Yuna, holding her mother's hand, smiled up at the stars. She was home. She had always been home. Because home was not a place. Home was the people who loved her, and they would never let her go again. The end.